Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday, November the 11th, 2025. The Economist has a cover story this week. The rise of singlehood is reshaping the world in good ways and bad. Of course, when it comes to bad, the issue of singlehood and loneliness is one that dominates the conversation. Lots of pieces these days about Americans being increasingly alone. Does that mean they're always lonely, or is being alone actually a form of non-loneliness? It's a question that many people ask themselves. All over the world, the issue of loneliness seems to dominate public discourse. In Britain, there's a new building designed to tackle loneliness. And on the gender front, lots of people think of loneliness in terms of women paying the price, and other people think that men need a mission when it comes to loneliness and singlehood. A woman who has given a great deal of thought to this and has just indeed written a book on it is my guest today. Sophie Lucido Johnson is a cartoonist and writer for, amongst other things, The New Yorker, and she has a new book out. It's called Kin, The Future of Family. It's not just about loneliness, but it seems to have been triggered by that. Sophie is joining us from Chicago, where she lives. Congratulations, Sophie, on the new book.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
So is that fair? Would you describe your new book, Kin, The Future of Family, as being about loneliness, or is that just one piece of what you're trying to write about?
Loneliness is pretty central to the conversation. The proposal is that single families are, by which I mean like two parents and a kid living in a house separated from other people, are sort of failing us, and people are more lonely than ever. So is there some way that we can live a little differently and be more connected with each other?
That two parents and two kids used to be known as the nuclear family. You say it's failing us, Sophie. Does that mean it doesn't really exist, or even when it does, is it a miserable kind of institution?
It does exist. Yes, I'm talking about the nuclear family. And I don't want to, I guess I just don't want to suggest that if you're in a nuclear family configuration, you can't make adjustments in your life to be less lonely. But the nuclear family is relatively new. It's a post-industrial nation or world phenomenon. And I just, over the last 150 years, we're seeing that it's not benefiting people economically or emotionally. So we've built the world around this the Western world around this model. So how do we change that? That's the central question of the book.
As I said, you're a cartoonist. You do a lot of work for The New Yorker, which is the great publication, I think, for cartoons. So it's quite an achievement. You do all sorts of other cartoons. I found one, even you wrote, you made a cartoon about pigeons. What do you think? I mean, you're a writer and a cartoonist, but what do you think as a cartoonist you bring to this conversation that people who aren't cartoonists don't get? I mean, do you look at, as a cartoonist, do you look at the world, at yourself and as others, and our struggles to achieve meaning in terms of our relationships? Do you think you bring a particular kind of humor or aesthetic to this?
Well, so far, I think I've been very funny on this show. I mean, I hear you.
You're being brilliantly funny.
I feel like you're laughing a lot. So yes, I'm bringing that. I started drawing because I was a special ed teacher in New Orleans, Louisiana, right after Katrina. And it just felt like language wasn't the only way that people accessed information. I started trying to draw, information for students who were having trouble with language. And I found I really liked it. And at the same time, I was doing stand-up comedy. But I liked doing stand-up, but it's very late at night. You have to go out and be at bars. That's not for me. So I thought, well, I think you can do stand-up on paper maybe, and then you can do it very early in the morning and people will still pay you. So I don't mean to be, there's nothing noble about it. I'm just trying to find my way in through the back door of the things I like.
Are you a lonely person?
I'm not. I think I've been lonely in my I haven't we hasn't everyone been lonely? It's not a quality of consciousness, being a human. Um, but I've also never lived alone, and so I'm always around people. I've had bad roommates, but um, I currently feel pretty connected. I live in a nice neighborhood. I really know my neighbors, um, and I'm also in multiple relationships. I'm in one of these, non-traditional relationship configurations. So I feel not super lonely. Do you feel lonely, Andrew?
No, but I think I'm one of these people who probably is a sort of not willing to acknowledge perhaps my own loneliness. I am very much alone, but I don't feel lonely. What's the distinction, Sophie, between being alone and feeling loneliness? I know philosophers have written about this extensively over history, about whether being alone and being lonely are separate things or whether they're actually connected.
Different people need different levels of connection. Loneliness is this suffering that comes from being alone without wanting to be alone. Being alone can also manifest as solitude, which is necessary for mental health. People need solitude. I need it a lot. I prefer to be by myself. But I also, humans are a social animal, and that's how we've evolved, and we do need each other. A lot of the reasons why you'll see these statistics, you didn't pull any of those up, but I'm sure you've seen them. Loneliness is more dangerous than 15 cigarettes per day out of, a 36-year study at Harvard. Loneliness is worse for you than alcoholism. It's worse for you than obesity. When they talk about that, I mean, they're talking about just if you are experiencing loneliness, like you're alone and you don't want to be, and you get sick, you have no one to call or no one to tell you, you don't seem well, you seem off. So you're just much more likely to misjudge a situation, to get into trouble, and die prematurely. It's important to have connection. So even on that, like a loose ties level, we talk about loose ties, like people, their names, you see them at the grocery store or as you're walking through your neighborhood. Those are just as essential as the really close, tight knit relationships.
You're making me want to be like a pigeon, Sophie.
I love pigeons.
Yeah, I mean, do you think they're lonely? I mean, you draw beautifully, and you've done these wonderful cartoons on pigeons.
I mean, I'm so glad you asked if they're lonely. They live in community. And one of my favorite facts about pigeons, see, I'm lighting up because I really love them. One of my favorite facts about them is that scientists have speculated for years, I mean, decades, as to why they're so effective at homing, which is like being able to find their way home even when they don't have any context clues for where they're starting. And they don't know, there are theories, none of them are proven. And one of the startling and just like kind of magical pieces of information is that if a pigeon is pair bonded or is a part of a community, they're more likely to be able to find their way home. So it's almost like, I don't want to say like pigeons love each other, but something like that. And that it's actually very intrinsic to their survival.
We've talked about all these studies. You mentioned the Harvard study and how being lonely is worse for you than smoking a packet of cigarettes or being obese. Where are we, Sophie, though, when it comes to, shall we say, the history of loneliness? What does your book suggest? Are we in a particularly dire moment? Have we progressed beyond the pigeons or under the pigeons? Have we lost any sense of each other? Or do we just live at a time where people are acutely sensitive of their isolation? Do you think we've always been kind of isolated? It's only in the 2020s that we're becoming more and more aware of it.
Well, it's an interesting question. His in this the scope of human history, we've never been as physically separated from each other, and you've heard that, I'm sure. We use, pre-industry. Western countries relied on agriculture. This is true in America and in England and other in Europe. And so you all lived on a big farm. You lived among a bunch of people. You were always connected with a lot of people. And when the Industrial Revolution came about, people started to move away from their family homes for the first time in history. I mean, also, the advent of cars and transportation, and they started to get married much younger because this is where loneliness we start to see it, is you're all alone living by yourself where you used to live with a big family. So they're getting married really young in the late 1800s and having children really young. And that we then you start to get, like, appliances are invented, so there's this sense that you can have your own little family unit that can be clean and it can feed you and it can be very nice and neat. But it's a lot for just one, group of people, one family unit to do, or even one individual to do. Also, we're talking about the Western world. The non-Western world largely does live in community, not super isolated. And there's examples all over the world, from Africa to India to native or parts of the Americas that are still inhabited by native people. It's just we're sort of, this is a tough time, post-pandemic especially tough. And also, no surprise here, but the internet has radically changed
Yeah,
how we
I
connect with
mean,
each other.
right. So, of course, that you got my next question on the internet. You and I are talking to one another on the internet. You're in Chicago. I'm in San Francisco. Is this the problem or a solution, Sophie? I mean, a lot of people saw social media and Zoom and all these other technologies as a way of bringing people together, but they're only compounding our isolation and loneliness.
I spoke to a lot of social scientists for this book, sort of about this, and it's always the answer is a yes and, or a both and. The internet is great. It is connective. It helps us to stay connected to people. If you want to have truly meaningful relationships, you need to have a diversity of modalities. So you have to not just be texting. You and I are, like, talking over video. People may be listening, but I can
Well,
see
I
you,
hope they're
like.
listening. Otherwise, we're wasting our time.
I mean, I
The
can see you.
pigeons are listening anyway.
I can see you over video. That's a different modality than if we were talking on the phone or if we were texting. So social scientists have studied, that a diversity of types of communication is essential for this sort of non-lonely way of being. And that's why you're seeing so many young people suffering from loneliness, and you're seeing the suicide rate among, young people. Gen Z is skyrocketing, and it's not slowing down. They're really communicating with each other in one way, which is over their phones, and it's not enough.
I was in Africa a few months ago. Went to, quote unquote, a traditional village in Kenya. And I was struck by how publicly people lived, and how there was really essentially an absence of privacy, certainly in physical space and perhaps also mentally. What do you make? I mean, you presented the idea of a kind of a lost Eden. At one point, we weren't lonely, and then we had the Industrial Revolution, and we were separated, and we've been suffering ever since. But what about the argument? And I'm probably turning your argument into a kind of cartoon. You're not quite saying that, but you know what I'm suggesting. What about the argument that loneliness is a condition, a consequence, a cost of individual freedom, and it's something we simply have to live with if we want to have rights, if we want to live in cities, if we want to be sufficiently independent that we can break away from our family and our kin.
I mean, I'm really glad that you phrased it like that, because the notion that we need to go back is, I couldn't feel further from that idea. I mean, I talked about how great I mean, yes, it's so great when you're connected to all the people on the farm, but like a lot of kids died. There was child labor, and like women were dying in childbirth. People were living till they were 40. I mean, I don't know how happy people were, but they were definitely dying a lot and really early in life. So, I don't have any notions that going backward is the way. And I also feel really lucky to live in a time when we can be so connected by technology. And not, I love living in a city. I think a city is actually so conducive to the kind of solution I'm proposing, which is not, okay, let's quit our lives and join a commune, or like take off our shoes and everyone make a big vegan stew in the middle of the town square. I mean, fine if that works for you, but I'm suggesting simpler adjustments, which are just something as simple as like, when I need, this is so small, but it happened recently. I needed a bunt pan. It's like a, round pan. You need to make a certain kind of, I don't know, I was making this bread. I didn't have it. I have no idea where my bunt pan is. Andrew, someone has taken it. It's gone. And there is a time when at this stage in life, I would have just ordered it on Amazon, because it's $12 and I can get it tomorrow or even in a couple hours, because I'm in Chicago. It doesn't strike people in my generation, especially, to just check across the street and see if somebody has it. Which is, I don't know, I shifted, and like I texted some neighbors, and within 5 minutes I had a bunt pan and a conversation. And it's the conversation that's really helpful. Like, I didn't talk to any other people that day, but I talked to Michelle across the street, and the research shows that even that, makes a big difference in our mental well-being. So I don't know. I like your sort of nihilistic idea that, uh this is our consequence for all the wonderful things that come with individual freedom. But I also think it's gone pretty far, and we can need each other in small ways, and it can benefit everybody.
I mentioned earlier the gendered element of this. A lot of people are introducing one kind of theory about gender, men and women, on the loneliness problem. I know in my marriage, my wife is incredibly friendly to neighbors, and if she needed anything, she would go out to a neighbor and get it. And I don't even know the names of our neighbors, and I've lived here for years. Is there a gendered element to this, Sophie? Are men and women, do they go about the crisis of loneliness differently, or is that oversimplified?
I mean, yes, it's oversimplified, and yes, there is a gendered element to anything having to do with like domesticity. And it I think where I land on it is that a lot of the discourse I hear is that women do the emotional labor, women do the work, women have to carry the load of all these, tasks that men don't even know are tasks. And my counter to that would be, women are the only ones who get the benefits from those, tasks. It's, first of all, it is too much. It's too much labor. It's too much for anybody to like run a household and have a job and I have a daughter. It's a lot that is,
How old's
expected.
your daughter?
She just turned 4 yesterday.
Oh, man. Happy birthday.
Thank you. And so, but like the sort of benefits of connecting with people and having connective conversations are documented. And it shouldn't just be women who get to have the benefits either. So there's this, it's like a symbiotic solution where if women do a little bit less and men do a little bit more, women might feel a little, I mean, I am hugely oversimplifying this, but some women might feel a little bit more ease in their life, and men might get some of the great positive consequences of being in community with folks. I mean, I like want to yell at you, like, go meet a neighbor, Andrew, go meet a neighbor. I want you to go meet learn
You'll have to
something.
come over or go over together. How much of this is bound up with morality? You have a great Substack. You are doing a good, but you also wrote something
Oh,
recently.
it's cut off. It's you are doing a good enough job.
Oh,
That's
wow. Well, that was
important.
a Freudian error. You were doing a good enough job. Well, you're doing something good. But you wrote something interestingly about perhaps being a little too selfless, which in itself can be dangerous. Are women themselves, are they in danger of, when they become too selfless, of compounding their own loneliness? Is there a correct balance between being selfless and selfish when it comes to this problem?
I think that I'll take gender out of this particular question, and because I think this affects a lot of people, and I definitely know men and non-binary people who also suffer from this. I started that newsletter. You are doing a good enough job because I'm writing it for myself, and yeah, I do struggle a lot to.
Well, you have a lot
Um,
of subscribers, so it's not just for yourself.
Yeah, but when I started it, thank you. I mean, but when I started it, I wanted to write little pep talks for myself that were just like, Sophie, stop beating yourself up. You're doing a good enough job. That it doesn't have to be good. It can just be good enough. And I think that we do generally ask way too much of ourselves, and I don't believe in selflessness. I think a lot of times people do generous acts to ingratiate themselves to others and to create, um, situations where you're needed. And I think it's possible to be loved because of who you are without someone needing you to do things for them. It's really tough. I mean, I'm definitely guilty of the typical feminine, behavior of overtending to the emotional needs of my uh, community, but it's something to work on. I don't actually think I'm going to be good at it by the time I die. So my hope is that maybe my daughter will be. And that's sort of my pitch here, is like, as we are moving forward, like, how do we talk to children about family?
Yeah, and I see your book, The Future of Family, Kin, as a kind of, in some ways, an answer to a lot of the fashion for stoicism. I don't know if if you're familiar with that kind of literature. The idea of being strong and separate. What do you make of this fashion for stoicism? Is it, in a way, the other side of the same coin to what you're writing about in Kin?
Stoicism, the Stoics believed that you don't have a lot of control over what happens in life, and that's the central philosophy. So when things happen to you, to sort of allow them, just see them as they are, not try to push them away. I believe in that strongly. I think we have very little control in life. I think that Stoicism is, I think the Stoics were onto something there. And to me, it's like it's on its way to some of the Eastern traditions like Buddhism, etc. I'm working on a humor piece about Stoicism right now. I've been reading a lot of Stoic literature, and I didn't know. I think they're onto something. So no, I don't think it's a opposites coin. Individualism, though, yes, we got an opposite side of a coin there. First chapter of the book is sort of a anti-Walden chapter, and just this idea that, like, living by yourself in the woods with a dog, this fantasy of being totally separate from the world. I think that fantasy is ill-formed. Thoreau didn't even really do
Right.
that.
Well, there's the old story when Walden and Thoreau didn't he get his mother to do his laundry for him?
Yes, indeed. And also he saw his friends a lot and didn't, write about that. He wasn't out there for that long. And there's a lot of other things he lied about that have been documented. But so many, like young men I knew in my 20s just really pined for that lifestyle. And I just don't think it makes most people happy. But I don't know about anything for everybody.
Yeah, well, most of the transcendentalists, of course, were male, Thoreau, Emerson. We've done some shows recently, Sophie, on how religion is making a comeback. It's become quite fashionable again. Is that the other side of the coin you're addressing? I'm looking for other sides of the coin. I didn't find it with Stoicism. Are people rediscovering religion because, particularly traditional monotheisms, because of our loneliness? Is that a consequence of this atomization?
I think that's a really good theory. And I wrote about religious groups in the book. I interviewed several people who practice religion or are recovering people, who are secular but weren't raised secular. I interviewed a lot of polyamorous people and was surprised at how many grew up in religious communities and also loved their childhoods in religious communities, and that they cite their childhood in religious communities as the reason why they're open to polyamory. And that's, I'm sure, probably shocking to the people that raised them. But I think that, yeah, religion allows you to be a part of something that's greater than yourself. And that is actually essential for our survival, because our egos are obsessed with death. And it helps to be a part of something more. And I think you can get that without, in a secular way, inside community that is committed to humanity, to the species. I think of it as like the work of the species. Like I'm contributing to my animal self.
Yeah, and you're interested in polyamorous culture. I mean, your last book was called Many Love, a memoir of polyamory and finding loves, or love with an S. So this is not just a throwaway remark. Is polyamory, is it maybe a cause or a consequence of the crisis? Is it an answer, or is it the way in which the crisis of loneliness manifests itself?
I don't know. It's been around forever. It's been around since like the dawn of the written word.
Before we even get it, what is it? What does the word mean? It's becoming, again, it's a word that gets used a lot, and it's something that your last book in 2018 did very well.
Yeah, the currently accepted definition is polyamory is a relationship style in which people are in multiple consensual romantic relationships with each other. Basically, you can, it's like the way in which it's different from an open relationship or like hookup culture is the consensuality. It's a lot of talking, a lot of communicating. And so you can't, if I'm married, which I am, if I'm married and I want to go, make out with a neighbor, I can't do that without talking with my husband about it. Although every polyamorous configuration is different. And when I wrote that in 2018, it's interesting. I just thought like, well, this is where the world is going. Like more people are going to be doing this. I think I in no way think that, everyone should be polyamorous, or even most people should be, quote unquote, should be polyamorous. I think it is, it works for some people and not for other people. But I did think it would be less stigmatized. It's still very, very stigmatized. I am not. So I'm using this name, Sophie Lucido Johnson. That's not the name my daughter's parents know me by, because I've lost jobs because of this identity. It's shocking to me, but it's true.
What, you've lost jobs because people object to polyamory?
Mm-hmm. They just think it's weird.
Well, it challenges. I mean, we began this conversation with your observation about the nuclear family. It's the least nuclear family architecture one could imagine, isn't it?
I guess I think I am just I feel really happy in my relationships, and I also think my daughter's really lucky because she has a lot of adults in her life, and I don't think that you have to. So a lot of people conflate polyamory with having sex with multiple people, and that's not necessarily what it means. Um, I think for me, it's just translated to having more people in my life, although not a ton of people, like a select few. And it's been really meaningful. It's allowed me to be more committed to my friends and just be thinking about relationships all the time. And I really, really like that about my life. So I think I was hoping people could be open to, you know, that the way in which that philosophy might benefit even just a real monogamous couple, which I love monogamy. I think the question with polyamory and monogamy is you make a sacrifice when you choose to love someone or when you love someone. With monogamy, you sacrifice ever kissing anybody ever again. And actually it's a pretty big sacrifice, and and I think that's so beautiful and powerful to make that sacrifice. With polyamory, you sacrifice comfort of believing that someone is always going to love just you in the same way, and that's also, I think, a really powerful sacrifice. So I think both of them are kind of amazing and awesome.
What's the politics of kin, Sophie? Your book is The Future of Family. I mean, I think most people would assume at least that you're on the progressive side politically. And yet we live in an age where people are increasingly seeing themselves in ethnic and cultural and religious terms. We have the rise of all sorts of political movements premised on not allowing people of different color skins or languages or religions into their community. Is that another feature of our age of anxiety and loneliness? And how does that play into the arguments in kin?
I mean, what I'm thinking about right now as you're asking that question is I'm in Chicago, and right now in my neighborhood, especially, I live in an immigrant neighborhood. There's ICE agents like everywhere, and it's affected. Like I've people who I know, like have been taken just off the street, and I feel shocked by that. I feel really surprised, honestly, because it feels really inhumane. And there are parts in this book that are about crossing political divides. My husband and I, in getting to know our neighbors throughout our lives, have become very close friends with people who are not progressive, who are much more conservative, both fiscally and socially. I also appreciate all the different ways that people come to find each other. And I do feel so sad that we're not connecting across the aisle. Um, but Chicago is a city that is an immigrant city, and that is why I love it here. That's why I love Chicago. It's a really incredible place, and it wouldn't be this place without immigrants. And I just feel kind of shocked and really heartbroken that I'm seeing this happen. Like I'm seeing it. I moved to New Orleans right after Katrina, and it was really similar, where I just couldn't believe the things I was seeing with my eyes. So I guess, I mean, I have to believe that that people, I think that there is this myth that it's what's most important is that you protect your family, and that family is the people whose blood matches your blood. And I think that's a real short-sighted way of being alive, especially as, we just are all we are all just we're humans. It's just it's not negotiable. We're the same. So I don't know. I feel sad, right? I'm really bummed about this right now. It's been a really tough month in our city.
Yeah, and obviously that goes against the kind of patrimonialism of the current American president. I was just reading Norman Mailer's book about 1968. He noted that Chicago was the quintessential American city, I think, because of its mix. Do you agree? I mean, how does Americanness fit into this?
Yeah, I do. I love Chicago. I think it is. I mean, there's a lot of American cities that are quintessentially American. What I love about Chicago, I mean, it is that it is a city of immigrants. I made a graphic about that I, printed and put places because it's just that's what's true for me. When we moved here, I remember just like going down the street, we went to a Nigerian restaurant, we went to an Eritrean restaurant and just ate this incredible food. Like I just got to eat this amazing food. I would never get to eat that. I'm not I don't travel. I wouldn't, it's not going to happen for me. And, meet people I'd never get to meet and just have experiences that I felt so lucky to have. And this whole city, 72 neighborhoods, all different identities and, you are seeing when I write about kin and like I'm writing to a Western, largely white audience. People of color and immigrants often live in multi-generational households because of the ramifications of poverty. And the Pew studies have shown that actually they find living in multi-generational households to be really fulfilling. And so we have all this data that's just by necessity showing that like we're just kind of doing it wrong. There are people who are happy and maybe shouldn't be who are living in more community oriented ways. America is really central to this. I couldn't sell this book in the UK because so much of the book was about um the Industrial Revolution, the rise of the nuclear family in the 1940s, look post World War II, identity of America, and that that um that is my experience, is learning about those things. So I am interested in. I'm from Portland, Oregon, which if you could see me, you wouldn't be surprised about that. I look like I'm from Portland,
What does
and
that mean? I mean, most people can see you, Sophie. You were doing video.
okay, well, I mean, like, I have all this, these art supplies behind me, and this, like, I remember somebody telling me when I used to do stand up, like, I didn't even have to say I was from Portland. It was just obvious. I don't 100% know. It's a vibe. Maybe it's a tonal
Yeah,
thing.
I think that's definitely your green jumper is very Portland.
My
You've obviously
green.
got a bit of something about green because there's
I like green right now.
the
Although,
cover of the book is green. You said that Americans are mostly doing it wrong. Is doing it so? Let's end with how to do it right. Your book is quite practical. Does that mean that, for example, if you're in Chicago and you feel lonely, you should just go out and go to your local Eritrean restaurant? How do we do it right?
well, I mean, yeah, that's a great idea. If you have an Eritrean restaurant, go to an Eritrean restaurant. It's just really fabulous food.
But it's not
But
going to solve your
no,
loneliness,
it's
is it?
not. No, it's not. But I do think it's a good idea. But no, it's not. Although I am suggesting really small changes. So I'm suggesting things like if you have a Costco membership, like, are there some people in your life you could share your Costco membership with and maybe just pay for one of those? Or if you're running errands, is there a friend that you could call who could run errands with you so you don't have to like plan a whole, dinner or date? Identify the people in your life who you don't mind if they come over when your house is a mess, and then like really nurture relationships with those people. A lot of times we talk about nurturing relationships in the romantic relationship context and also with our children, and there's not a lot of resources for nurturing relationships with friends, and that's because there's a lack of language around that. And also friendship is just only now being studied by sociologists, which is wild, but only in the last like 10 years. So this is also a bid to be intentional about friendship and find your people. My circle is small. I can count my people on like one hand, but I'm like really committed um to being messy around them and having them be messy around me. I mean that in every sense of the word. And that's
So I mean, coming back to the title of your book, Kin, the Future of Family, you're suggesting really people, even if they're not literally family, can become family.
That's it. You got it. Right. That's it.
And blood is neither here nor there. In fact, it might be the wrong way of thinking about family.
Yeah, it's one way. You know, we call that family of origin, and for your parents, and then, you know, your children. I don't know. Yeah, that is the bottom line. I'm proposing the word kin to encompass the people in your life who are more than your friends, but aren't, you know, traditionally defined as your family members, and hoping that'll catch on.
Well, it's an interesting conversation. It's certainly a radical idea, but a fascinating one, and it addresses all the problems of isolation and loneliness. The book is out today. Sophie Lucido Johnson, Kin, the Future of Family. Best of luck, Sophie, with the book, and
Thanks, Andrew.
congratulations.
Thank
Really
you so
interesting.
much.
A very green conversation.